In this lecture, I am going to throw light on the concept of arrays. Arrays, they are very much important part and integral part of any programming language. See, before going into the details, let's assume that we people have to store the marks of 10 students, and if we are not aware about the concept of arrays, what we would try to do is we will take a variable, say a. We will declare variables a, B, C, D, so on. Suppose I wanted to store the marks of 20 students. So this way I will have to declare as many as 20 variables, or it could be int, mk1, mk2, mk3 and so on till mk20. So that means in order to store the marks of 20 students, I am required to declare 20 separately named variables. Now guys, you can clearly observe that this is really cumbersome task. Just imagine about the scanf, printf, etc. statements of such types of programs. Here comes the role of arrays. Now arrays, they are quite handy in situations where we people are supposed to store multiple values belonging to the same data type. So as far as definition is concerned, I would say an array is a finite set of homogeneous elements stored in contiguous memory locations. Now it means an array is a group of values belonging to the same data type. Homogeneous means belonging to the same data type. That means if an element in the array happens to be of int data type, then all the other elements, that is values in the array, they ought to be of int data type only. So what is what is the meaning of this phrase contiguous memory locations? See students, contiguous memory locations, as you people know, all the variables, arrays, etc., they get stored in the memory, that is the RAM of your computer system. And when you people declare different variables and arrays or any other data structure, they can be stored anywhere in the memory. But as far as an array is concerned, all its elements, that is all its values, they will get stored in a chain like structure. They will be stored in a chain like structure. That means all the elements that will be stored, all the values that will be stored in an array, they will happen to be present in adjacent locations, in neighboring locations, right? So I will show you an example, but before that, see, how do we declare an array? Suppose I want to declare an array that is supposed to deal with the marks of 10 students. So I will go like this: float marks 10. Here float happens to be the data type, and float happens to be the data type, and marks is the name of the array, and whatever number I have written within the square brackets, that will be called the size of the array. Size of the array, it means total number of elements that we intend to have in our array. And once this array is declared in memory, the space will be allocated like this, as I am showing on this in this diagram. See, marks 0, marks 1, marks 2, marks 3. Now see carefully, we have got a chain like structure, and because we have declared this array as of being float data type. All the elements are supposed to take up 4 bytes in the memory. So I have assumed the base address to be 105. Base address means the address of the very first element. It could be anything. I have assumed it to be 105. So the address, memory address of the very next element, that is marks 1, that would be 109, and address of the next element, that is marks 2, is going to be 117. So you people can clearly see that there is an interval of 4 bytes each. Why? Because each element happens to be of float data type. So by observing this particular array diagram, we can clearly see that all the array elements, they are getting stored in contiguous, that is neighboring memory locations. So see, uh, in this diagram, I'm going to explain the different terms. In this example, marks is array name. As per this example, marks is the array name, and 0, 1, 2 till 9 in this example, they are supposed to be called subscripts. Sometimes subscripts are also referred to as indexes, but I would suggest you should go for subscripts term. And marks 0, marks 1, marks 2, etc., they will be termed as array elements. These are array elements. So once we people have declared an array, naturally our next attempt will be to put the values into the array. And one thing more, you might have noticed that the subscript always starts from 0. So the subscript number of the last element is definitely going to be size minus 1. So we can say in this example, instead of declaring 10 separately named variables, what we have gone in for is, we have declared an array like this, float marks 10, and what it did was, it allocated space for a chain like structure called array in the memory. And now you will see that by applying a simple type of loop, we would be able to traverse all the elements in a very easy and comfortable manner. I'm going to give you an example. This is our dev C++, and see, the first statement is declaration of the array like float marks square bracket 10. I would say this is declaration of the array. Then this simple loop, what it is going to do is, it is going to read the values into the array elements. N is equal to 0, n is less than 10, condition is true. It will come down to the following statements, loop statements. And how scanf will work. Scanf percentile f ampersand marks 0. First time value of n is 0. So whatever value you would input through the keyboard, that is bound to go to the very first element, that is marks 0. So that marks 0. The diagram is a bit distorted. Let me rectify it. Not a big deal. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. No, this is it. So first time the scanf worked this way. The value of n was 0. Value of n was 0. So scanf worked like this. Scanf percentile f marks 0. Ampersand marks 0. The very first value was inputted, and that of course went into this first element marks 0. Now again we come back to the program. The control will go up to the last component of for loop plus plus n will make the value of n 1. Condition would be tested. Condition will come out to be true. Again, it will enter into the loop log. Scanf will work this way. %f marks 1. So that means we people are going to read the second element, and that second element is, see, marks 1. Mark 0 is nothing else but the marks of the first student. Marks 1 element represents the marks of the second student. Mark 0, marks of the first student. Marks 1, marks of the second student. And the loop will go on like this. Plus plus n, the value of n will become, now value of n will become 2, and the scanf will be working this way. %f marks 2. So whatever value user will input, that will go into this element marks 2, which is nothing else but marks of the third student, and it will go on like this till marks 9. Marks 9, that is marks of the 10th student. So it will go on like this, and once the value of n becomes 10, of course the condition will be false and the loop will terminate. And after the termination of the loop, what I am doing is I have applied another loop which is supposed to display all these values which have been read into these array elements. So I'm going to print it this way. Again, value of n will be reinitialized to 0. N is less than 10. Condition is true. Marks 0 will print the first value. Then marks 1, marks 2, marks 3, and so on. So guys, this was my attempt to give you a very basic view of the arrays in C language, and I will be back with more tutorials. Goodbye.